Danny, welcome to DITL.
Thank you.
Danny, Danielle, YoDaniGirl, all the names. Yep. As we were thinking about guests for DITL, we're always thinking about, professions and days that aren't so familiar to us. And so when we were talking about a florist, I was like, we obviously have to have YoDaniGirl on. And here we are. So on DITL, we always start at the very beginning of the day. So what time do you wake up and how do you get your day started?
Yeah, every single day is different. So when you don't own a flower shop where it's just like classic hours, you're like for me, I'm a florist with events. And every week is different depending on the events or the clients that call. So no day looks the same. So when you had told me we're going to talk about routine, I was like, whew, what's this going to look like for me? Because I'm still figuring it out. Like one day it could be like a 5 a.m. wake up call. And then the next day could be like 8 and that's all. And then I can work weekends or I could have a day off in the middle of the week. But to answer your question, typically like 6 a.m. But it just depends on the job.
So let's start with because it sounds like a 5 a.m. wake up is for a crazy day with a lot of arrangements work. Like let's take that day for the sample here. So your alarm, is it waking up to an alarm?
Yeah, it's an alarm, but I usually just have it go off once because I don't want to press snooze and I don't want to wake up my fiance. And then actually, because this year I really am committed to the time before work, I realized that I would just, as soon as you look at your phone, your day, I feel like is completely controlled by outside forces. So I don't look at my phone. And do you want me to go into
what do you do?
Okay. So right now, no matter what the job is, I really have this quiet time in the morning and I try to go as slow as possible. So that's usually about an hour.
And then what's next?
Then I take my dog out. I've already fed him usually during that chill time. And then I take him out and this is still a 5 a.m. day. So sometimes I'll get the chance to really walk him and other times he'll go out on our way to the flower market because actually my dog comes with me to the flower market and comes to my studio with me and goes everywhere I go. So sometimes his walk is the 2 hours we're looking for flowers at the flower market. So that would be what we do next is basically pack up, grab a banana or some type of snack and then eat on the way to the flower market and then get his exercise in there and see all his friends there.
Off you go. Yeah. I've never actually been to the LA flower market.
I took Whitney.
And no, I did not know. But I've seen photos. It seems like the most beautiful place, but also the most overwhelming place. You now know what you're going for, who you're going to see. But what is that experience at the flower market like for you each day?
It is it's like my office with all my coworkers. We're actually all friends. So even if I know I'm going to spend 2 hours there, if I have 1 order or if I have 10 orders, because I just end up talking to all my friends. So it's social hour for me. It is very stimulating with all the different colors and the prices and the, quality of things. Sometimes you walk in and to maybe someone that's not experienced, they'll think everything looks pretty. But for all of my florist friends and I will be like, it looks sad today. The flowers just don't look good. And then the next day I'll be like, oh my God, everything looks so much more fresh than yesterday. So it's very interesting to walk in and even though it is always beautiful, there's these subtle changes each time.
And why is that? Is it weather? Is it just time of year?
Yeah, it can depend on the time of year, what the vendors are able to get that week. Flowers are very unpredictable. So I feel like it can just, vary based on the season. And, that's a good question because I don't know why some days I'm some flowers don't look good. But I don't know if that really answers your question other than that, going there, even though it's the same place every day, it feels very different depending on what other florists I run into, what flowers are in season. Yeah, the quality of things. the chaos of like sometimes everyone has tons of events in the same week, so it's like even busier.
And what do you do then? That's to me what's so crazy is like all the florists in LA who are shopping for all the same things or fighting over the product. Like what is the mayhem of that situation at the Flower Mart?
Well, I always say this on my Instagram and stuff that I don't know what other industry is as collaborative and like community oriented as florists. And I have actually asked people, and then they chime in and say other, industries are that community oriented. But like we tell each other where things are. Like if I see a friend holding something, I'm like, oh my God, where'd you get that? And they're like, oh, down the hall. Or friends with their own companies are referring me, and I referred them, and we've all at one point or another worked together too, like as freelancers before we had our own businesses. So I feel like it doesn't feel competitive at all to be searching for flowers. There's no like, sometimes if there's one bunch left, I'll be like, oh, go for it. Like it doesn't have that energy at all. And I'm so grateful for that, because I don't know what I would do if there was this competitive nature to it.
That's so amazing. I mean, I honestly feel like my experience in podcasting has also been a very collaborative one. And so it's very cool to see everyone, or a lot of people, supporting one another, and the entire industry growing because of it.
Yeah. I think when we all take ourselves out of it, we're able to like, I don't know, grow even more. It's weird. I think just that energy, depending on the energy you're putting out, and if you kind of just relax about it, somehow work continues to come your way. And you're all producing such different things, similar to podcasts. Everyone has a different approach, right? So we could be buying the same thing, same flowers, and be making completely different products.
So crazy.
Yeah.
In my mind, so much of floral arranging and kind of how it comes together is like day of. And I've never really thought about this processing time and it being days. So like leading up to an event is like how long does that take?
Yeah, for a wedding or a larger event, it can take anywhere from 3 to 6 days, I would say. And then that's the really hard part too, because you're dealing with a fresh product that you can't get any earlier than, honestly, 3 to 4 days max. And you can't do you can only prep so much before that point, which is the really hard part about our business. Yeah. Because you have to, some product you shouldn't even get till the day of or the day before.
What's the craziest job you've ever had to do?
Probably with Balenciaga in the December.
Was this the fashion show in Beverly Hills with Erewhon?
Yeah.
Okay. And what was that job?
It was like working with like 5 or 6 of their teams and making like over 200 bouquets of varying preferences.
Was this when it was all black flowers? Or no?
No.
Was that not
this
all
was
black?
Every stem a different type of flower, and every flower a different color. So you couldn't just like grab a handful of something and throw it into the bouquet. You had to take one stem of like 25 different flowers and then put it together and make it look like crazy and wild. But also that was just, all the different like days, production days where they wanted things delivered and things like that. It was, and I was managing a really large team on top of having other jobs already booked that week. So, and again, like the turnaround time for that, like it wasn't even approved until a few days prior. So all of a sudden it was like go time. And that's how a lot of these events actually work. I feel like maybe, I don't know if the flowers are thought of sort of one of the last things they're thought of, but 99% of my work is not confirmed until about 7 days before, maybe even less.
Craziest arrangement you've ever done?
Sofia Richie's recently with sunflowers and orchids. I feel like even though it wasn't crazy, it felt crazy to me because it was only 2 different types of flowers. And I just love that.
Does the prep take more time than the arrangements themselves?
It depends on the style and it depends on the flowers. Some flowers don't need any prep, or we call it processing. When you're like processing flowers, that can be like a whole day of just processing, meaning like taking off the leaves and everything. So it really depends on the flowers you get. For sometimes I'll have an event and I totally didn't realize like the stems were going to be take so much time to clean, and that ends up being like where I'm calling people being like, can you come help? Like I'll just have forgotten, or I wouldn't have bought that product before. And then sometimes it's the opposite, where the arrangements are taking a really long time depending on the style.
What's a flower that takes a long time to process?
Wax flower, maybe. I was just thinking about that because I bought it the other day and I was like, it takes so long.
So tedious.
Yeah, it's very tedious because for some reason you have to like, it's rougher on your hands, and there's these tiny, tiny, tiny little pine needles. If you know what wax flower is, it's like at the Trader Joe's or farmers markets a lot. But
Are you wearing gloves?
no.
No, you have like beautifully manicured nails.
I'm okay right now.
Yeah. You do not look like you are, processing flowers all day long.
No, I normally do. I'm going to show you photos later.